everybody, it's Gail. I am sitting here on the couch with the window cord blinds and this dress I have to finish seaming. And I am a week out from having had my gallbladder removed in emergency surgery. And let me tell you, there is no fun in that sentence. There is none. So about 3 weeks ago, I think it was, we moved back in after having been in a hotel for 3 weeks because we were getting repairs done from water damage from the end of June. I am actually putting together like a video of like explaining what happened, showing what the damage looked like, and then doing the, oh hey, you know, we're home, and getting shit put back where it belongs and getting the new furniture in, and like, you know, I thought it would be fun. And the actual moving back in and getting to reorganize has been fun. But 2 weeks ago, so not this past weekend, but the weekend before that, so it was like the last weekend of September, I got violently ill. And we thought it might be food poisoning. But the thing that appeared to have made me ill, I don't want to go into graphic detail, it's gross. You all know what food poisoning does. The sandwich that I thought had caused the problem, Sean ate the other half of and didn't have a problem. And between the two of us, I have an ironclad stomach. And he doesn't have a hair trigger, but like, if he eats too much rich food, it will make him physically ill. So like, if that sandwich was off in any way, shape, or form, he would have been down on the ground with me. So we go to the urgent care, and they give me an anti-nausea shot that was so massive. Like, it hurt. My arm is still sore. It's been a week and a half, and like, the shot site is still sore. This little hat fell off. Here we go. The shot site is still sore because it's a huge injection. And they gave me that. They made sure I could keep something down after I'd had it. And they were like, you know what? It sounds like it was food poisoning. Have you had gallbladder issues? I said, I've never had gallbladder issues that I know of. Like, I get heartburn sometimes from certain foods, and that's about it. So they're like, okay, you can, you know, you can keep stuff down, you can go home. So I go home, I take Monday off because I'm dehydrated as hell. Side note, the Pedialyte popsicles, not bad. So that was good because I ate a bunch of them. And I go through the week being pretty careful about like what I'm eating because I'm like, you know, maybe it was a gallbladder attack because like when she pushed, it hurt. But also my entire torso was very, very sore. So it was one of those things of like, yes, it hurt, but it doesn't hurt more than a lot of the other places you've poked at. So I get through the week, including going to a company barbecue, and you know, I'm just being kind of cautious about how much of certain foods I'm putting on my stomach. Come Saturday, we do a bunch more work around the house. Sean goes out, grabs me a cheeseburger and fries. I eat that. I'm doing fine. I'm having lots of water. A couple of hours later, we're done for the day. And so I sit down and I'm eating some potato chips. And I'm not kidding. Between like one chip and the next, bam, just hits me. And at this point, it's about... This little hat won't stay on because I'm leaning it. And so when I move, it moves. Anyway, so at this point, it's about 8:30 at night on a Saturday, and I was like, all right, this isn't great, but I'm going to have some Tums, I'm going to drink some water. Basically, everything I'm putting in my body right now, which, quite frankly, it was champagne and potato chips. No more of that. Like, that goes over there. We're not doing that because that is clearly causing this problem. Let's get some water in here. Let's get some Tums in here. Let's see if we can't calm this down. And so, made a cup of peppermint tea, because that is also supposed to help with heartburn, and, like, if it's a gallbladder thing, it can help with the gallbladder. So, doing all of this, and at about 10 o'clock, I'm like, I still hurt, I'm gonna go lie down, go to bed. If I go to sleep early, so be it. Like, we like to stay up late on the weekends. I go to bed, and there's just no way to lay that makes anything feel better. And I get up, and I come out, And I'm sitting next to Sean. I've got the heating pad on my chest because he's supposed to help. And I'm just like half asleep because I took a muscle relaxer. That was the other thing. I took a muscle relaxer in the hopes of stopping, if there were contractions going on. They're prescribed to me. It's fine. And I was out here and I was just sort of like a little hazy because the muscle relaxer does that and hurting. And Sean looks at me and says, honey, we have to go to the hospital. And of the two of us, I am usually the first one to be like, this is a hospital thing. And Sean being like, not that it's not important to go to the hospital. Maybe give it a little bit of time. But like, he was like, we got to go to the hospital. So we go to the ER and they put me through a lot of the like physical poking around tests that I had been put through the previous week. And I'd mentioned to them I had this massive this massive violent illness thing happened the previous week. And they bring a surgeon in to get a look at me. They do an ultrasound to check for gallstones, and I can't see the ultrasound because I can't see the screen because I'm flat on my back. Sean can see the screen, and I see him kind of go. I'm like, okay, I've got a gallstone probably. And so when we're back waiting to hear from the ultrasound tech, I guess it's a radiologist who looks at ultrasounds, waiting to hear from the radiologist, Sean's like, oh yeah, I saw like a little sac and then a bunch of little round shapes, so it's probably gallstones. I'm like, okay, like, so this is what gallstones feel like. This fucking sucks. Never had one before. And a surgeon comes and talks to me and is like, look, you've got gallstones, but this is something that can be fixed with dietary changes, and we think that it's worth it to try, kind of going through the gallstone diet, which is just like less fatty foods, less high cholesterol foods, and like, giving you an anti-nausea, giving you something for the pain, and like sending you home and letting it work itself out. I'm like, no, that's not, that's fine. And like, this was a severe pain, but, my endometriosis was so bad that I had a total hysterectomy at 31. And that was purely to get rid of the pain. So like, to give you an idea of the kind of pain that I'm used to in terms of medical pain, 31 years old when I got a hysterectomy. And like, this it was up there. It was up there with the endo pain. But at the same time, I'm like, I know, I looked at gallstones as a possibility. I knew what to possibly expect. And so I'm like, yeah, this is a totally normal way to deal with it. Let's go. And we've been eating pretty junky the last few weeks because we'd been staying in the hotel and then we came home and, it's just getting it back into a routine. So I'm like, yeah, it's probably just, junked up. Here it is. I have more than one gallstone, but like, we just got one that was big enough to get caught in something. So they give me the anti-nausea meds. They give me something else. I forget what it was. And they come back in about 20 minutes later and they go, okay, here's a little container of apple juice. So we need you to drink that and see that it's going to stay down. And at this point, it's about 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so excited to drink this and go home. I drink the apple juice and everything goes to hell. And the nurse comes back in and looks at me and says, I'm telling you right now, you're not going home. And the surgeon comes in and goes, okay, yeah, here's the thing. Apple juice is like the easiest thing for the body to hold on to when you're dealing with any sort of pain, nausea, like from various things, but especially for gallbladder stuff. It's basically syrup. And I can't go home because my body has just rejected apple juice. So they can't send me home because there is too much of a chance that I'm going to end up in a real bad place if outside of a medical setting, but also because my body said fuck you to the apple juice, now we're getting gallbladder surgery. So good job, self. Glad to be a high achiever. Super great time. Bless them. A weekend night in Portland is not the night to discover you need emergency surgery because you have to wait for a surgery slot to open, but then you also have to wait while emergency shit is happening all weekend. And so they got me to a bed, and I was in one of the hallway slots in the hospital. Like, they have them labeled by letters so you can find people. And they gave me a privacy screen, like, did the best they could under the circumstances. And I fell asleep a little bit, and then I woke up because everything had worn off. And I was rocking back and forth on the gurney, crying my eyes out. I hurt so bad. And I didn't know who my nurse was. I couldn't tell who was a nurse. I didn't, like... And then, like, when I'm feeling bad, all of my instincts to not bother anybody, which is a major problem I have, of like, no, it's fine. It's fine. Yes, I'm in incredible pain, but no, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to seem a nuisance. All of that shit kicks in hard. And so I'm sitting there in a horrible pain, rocking back and forth, bawling my eyes out, but not wanting to reach out and, like, ask someone if they can get me a nurse because I don't want to be a bother. I am aware this is all very counterintuitive, but trauma brain. So they come, like, a nurse comes over and is like, let's get you some good drugs. And I get I had an IV started in my arm because they'd given me fluids when I got in there. So I got something, and then I got a pill of something, and then I fell asleep for a few hours. That was great. But then I woke up and everything had worn off and it fucking hurt again, and so I was crying again. And the nurse came over and said, good news, we can move you out of the hallway into a different area. Like, you still don't have a room, but it's a quieter area. It's going to be easier for us to take care of you there. So they moved me into, like, it is ER adjacent, but it wasn't, like, right in the middle of the hallway. And all of the nurses who took care of me were amazing, like, just top notch. And so I spend about a day in the bed in this sort of open area with a few other people in beds. And the thing is, I know now one of the things they were giving me, and they told me when they gave it to me originally, I was in pain, so I didn't fucking care. Like, you're a medical professional, do it. They were giving me Dilaudid, which is one of those narcotics you don't fuck with. And on top of that, they were giving me oxycodone because I can't have anything with Tylenol in it. I can't, my MCAS causes me to have basically an allergic reaction to Tylenol. So I just don't take Tylenol because I can go into asthma attacks and it's just not worth it. So basically, they would give me my dose at the time that it was allowed. I would fall asleep. I would wake up making those incoherent pain noises that you make when you're, like, in a lot of pain and your body doesn't know what else to do, so you're just kind of wailing. And I think possibly the Dilaudid, not going to say it right now, that it was actually making it worse because, you know, hallucinations, very common side effect of both Dilaudid, and oxycodone. I imagine when they're mixed together, you get some real fun ones. I didn't have anything fun. Like, I watched a light move across the ceiling. That was the most fun I had with it. But, like, I was waking up and I was kind of coming half awake and I'm like, who's making that noise? I'm like, oh, that's me. And so that was just the soundtrack. And then meanwhile, again, it's the weekend. 2 separate, rather large car accidents apparently happened, and they had to bring patients into the ER. And this, I assume it was the second one. I don't remember the first one. In the second one, someone else was brought in who was also in a great deal of pain and was making similar noises. So we were kind of in a horrible duet. And then there was the third person. It was a dude. And he was screaming about how he needed to pee. And he was, like, he was swearing at everyone and everything the entire time. And the staff explained to him over and over, they could not give him any water to help him piss because they were getting ready to fly him out for surgery. Like, whatever had happened to him was severe enough. And they were so booked in surgery that they were just sending him to another hospital. But he did not care about that. And I want to be clear on this. This was not, this was not the ranting of someone who didn't know what he was doing. Okay, I am not trying to shame anybody who is not aware of their surroundings and screaming, because as I just told you, I was not aware of my surroundings and wailing. This dude was intentionally being a prick. And I know you're thinking, but Gail, the man was in pain. Yeah, he was. I don't doubt that he was. However, he would only start getting loud and start screaming obscenities and start demanding people do something when either I went off on my wailings, or the other person who was also in the kind of wailing pain that I was in went off. Then suddenly he would be very, very quiet. And then one of us would make noise, and he would start to make noise, and then he would build it immediately into demands and swearing and that kind of shit. So fuck that guy. I had to sit there and remind myself that in no way, shape, or form was I going to make anything better by tearing him a new one. Because I'm exhausted. I'm in pain. I have had no privacy for 24 hours. Every bit of sleep I have is not enough sleep. Going through it. And all I wanted to do was yell at this dude. But I'm like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do it. Don't do it. And so I didn't. It was very difficult. And so they come to me at some point. So that was Saturday into Sunday. So some point on Sunday, I think it was Sunday. Maybe it was Monday morning. It's hard to remember because, again, I was in pain. I was in and out of it. But they came in and they said, we found your room. So they get me into a room in the surgery ward, and they explained to me, hey, we want to do your surgery today, but it's not scheduled until 5, and it might get pushed out to Tuesday. Okay, so I guess I did. I'm like, fine, whatever. I don't care. It is blessedly quiet in here. I have some privacy. It's going to be, the bed is much more comfortable. You do not want to be overnight on an ER gurney. Holy shit. It was not the most uncomfortable, but you could feel it. One of those reminders I'm almost 40. So Sean comes and visits. We talk about things. My roommate, who had gotten out of surgery and needed to be inpatient for a couple of days, was, we minded our own business. It was great. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling okay. They're pumping fluids. I'm getting my meds. I'm able to sleep more comfortably in this space. And then the caffeine withdrawal started. And I didn't figure out that's what it was right away, because when I'd fallen asleep on the gurney the first time, it had been up, at an angle, and so I'd slept with my neck at an angle, and so my neck was sore from doing that. And so I thought that I had just fucked up my neck a little bit, and then finally realized, oh no, it's the complete lack of caffeine. I don't drink a huge amount of caffeine. I'm not, I have 2 16-ounce cups of coffee a day from my French press. And then I have started drinking caffeinated water in the mornings as well. So, 2 good-sized cups of coffee and basically the equivalent of a cup of tea. And it does take a couple of days. If I don't have caffeine for a couple of days, yes, I'll start to notice the headache. But, it takes a couple of days. And so I don't necessarily put it together. And then I did. And the doctors allowed me a caffeine pill. And I got half of one. And it helped, but the headache was still there. It fucking sucked. And my nurse, that particular nurse was an absolute rock star. Going back to the doctors and being like, hey, still having caffeine issues, would like the second half of the pill. And the doctors are like, we can't do that more than once every 3 hours. And then it was, well, what about coffee? And then that becomes, well, can I keep anything down? And I'm like, I'm willing to try. You've had me on anti-nausea medication for 24 hours. Let's go. So I was allowed a cup of coffee, and that finally cut through it, and I was able to relax again. And then they came in and confirmed my surgery had been moved to the next day. And so the next day, I'm just kind of waiting to find out if I have surgery. And I hate waiting when I know something's supposed to happen. So, I was a bit cranky. I also, even with the headache gone, I couldn't read easily. I couldn't do anything but lie there. So they come in and they say, okay, you're going to pre-op at this time. So I call Sean. I'm like, here's what I'm going to pre-op. And so he gets Bean bundled into the crate, comes over, is sitting with me. They come and they take me, and we'd been told that it's anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours for the surgery. So we're like, okay, half an hour in pre-op, 2 hours after that, probably an hour for post-op, and then home. We might even be home by like 7 o'clock. We didn't make it home until 10:30 because they got me back to pre-op very quickly, and then there's a drug that they give you when you're in pre-op so that you're real loosey-goosey while you're waiting for your turn at surgery, and that shit just knocks me out. Like, I never have... You're supposed to have, like, a little bit of memory. It's very common. I had nothing. I remember that shot going in, and the next thing I know, I am waking up in post-op. And, like, that's fine. That's fine. Meanwhile, Sean is in a room for 5 hours wondering what the hell is going on and why is it taking so long. But, not having anybody to call or anything. And poor Bean... She's over in her bed right now. A friend of ours was able to come over, get her around the block, give her some snuggle time, but she had to go back in the crate. And, like, she did fine. She's a good girl. But, that's a long time. It was like 8 hours she was in there. Total. But I wake up in post-op. And one of the questions they ask you before you go in for surgery is, do you do anything weird when you wake up from anesthesia? And what they're really looking for, as I understand it, is like, do you throw punches? Do you scream? Because weird shit happens under anesthesia. The first and second time I was under anesthesia, I woke up bawling my eyes out. The third, fourth, and fifth times, nothing. I woke up, I was fine, asked for my husband, they told me I had to wait until I was a little more lucid, and then once I was more lucid, here he came. I probably asked them to see Sean 100 times in that time frame, but like that's all I did. And so I was like, nope, not weird on anesthesia anymore. Totally fine. My first memory coming out of anesthesia was a hallucination. Like a full room hallucination where Sean was Chucky and there was a mirror in front of me. There was not a mirror in post-op. And I was looking at myself in this fake mirror and I was Tiffany. So we were Chucky and Tiffany from the Child's Play movies. And I remember leaning over to Sean once and saying, we gotta kill the nurse. Sean goes, what? And he's laughing. I do remember him laughing. And I said, we got to kill the nurse because we'll get a bigger cut of the money. So that is what I remember. Apparently, what happened is Sean was sitting next to me while the nurse was checking my vitals. The nurse turned around and I looked at Sean and I mouthed, we got to kill her. And he was like, what? And then apparently I repeatedly whispered to him, we got to kill her. And he apologized on my behalf. Honestly, from what I understand, this is not anything out of the ordinary for a post-op nurse, thankfully. But like, Jesus, brain, of all the things to go with on this. So, after threatening this poor nurse for God knows how long, we get back to the room and then we have to wait for discharge papers and there's a mix-up and it's nobody's fault. Something that had worked previously in the system was not working in the system. And so they come in and they go through the discharge orders. And again, because I can't have Tylenol, I get oxycodone after surgery. It's like 5 milligrams. But now, you don't just get the oxycodone, you get a nose spray to use in case you overdose. And I'm all for this, by the way, but it's really, like, I'm glad you prepare people for that because you are more likely to become addicted to or overdose on opioids if you are using it for an acute reason like surgical pain, as opposed to if you have chronic pain and are on it full time. So, like, I'm glad that they provide this, but I had no idea they provided it. I was still a little fucked up from the anesthesia, and I'm just like, that's weird. We finally make it home. We get in. Bean does her run around. I have to be very careful about the kind of cuddles I get from her, because one, I can't lift more than 10 pounds and she's 16. And 2, I have 4 fresh incisions on me. I think we managed to reuse 3 from previous surgeries, but I got a new scar on my abdomen, so yay. And so I stay up long enough to get some solid food into me and then just crash. Sean stays up a little bit longer. I remember him coming to bed, and the next thing I remember is it's 11:30 at night, and Bean is romping on the bed, just like boonsy, boonsy, boonsy. And Sean is just, he's on his last nerve. You know, he's had a very stressful few days as well. He's got to go to work the next day. I do not. I was off work all of last week. And it's like Bean, I'm like, she's just so excited. And usually what happens when we get home and she's out of the crate is we're home before bed. You know, we're home with an hour or 2 before bedtime so she can get all of this happiness out of her system and just crash with us. And she ended up, Sean had given her a pork chomp because she'd been a good girl on the crate. And she ends up bringing that thing into the bedroom and eating it right in the middle of the bed between the two of us to show us how happy she is. It's a yay, we're all home. But it's like hearing drywood snapping. And I thought Sean was going to like put her out the front door and close it behind her. He was so close. And so that is the story of getting my gallbladder out. It's been a week. I am healing up very well. I've still got some pain in my muscles, understandably, from the surgery. I am one of those people. I am totally happy to be a wimp about my pain meds. I was taking them every 6 hours on the 6 hours. The fun fact with oxycodone is, in my case, once my body has healed just past the point of needing to focus every single resource on the healing, I get shitty side effects from oxycodone. The last time I had movement hallucinations that kept me awake, and also my sleep jerk, which I take gabapentin for, was way more pronounced than usual. So I couldn't find a comfortable position to sleep in because my legs were kicking constantly. And then when they weren't, it felt like they were kicking constantly. This time I got super loopy, which there's a point of loopy that I hate because it's just dizziness, and that's what it was. I got super dizzy. So it was very hard for me to like get up and move because I didn't want to fall. And then I also got like severe muscle pain in my neck, and muscle pain is a side effect of oxycodone. And I actually like that because then I can just like, you know, toss the rest of it and get onto ibuprofen, and then I'm usually fine. The reason I'm so sore right now is because, you know, we're in some deeper healing. I've been moving around more. I've taken Bean on a walk the last 2 days, and she hasn't pulled or anything, but it's, you know, it's a healing body having to go through the daily motions while still working. Like, I've gone back to work now. And I can't do the, you know, ibuprofen Tylenol switch back and forth. And there's nothing that you can mix with ibuprofen like you can mix with Tylenol. Because acetaminophen and aspirin are the same type of NSAID as ibuprofen, and so you can't pile those on top of each other. It doesn't help with the pain in the way that being able to go back and forth does. So that is now the epilogue to my gallbladder story. And so that is the story of me getting my gallbladder out. I am looking forward to a very quiet, nothing happening next few weeks. It sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to finishing the video about getting to come back home and put stuff together, and kind of looking forward to you seeing the damage that the apartment went through, because it was like, in terms of like, wow, that's a lot of damage. It was a lot of damage. But I'm going to go now and relax and be glad that I can rest, and I hope that you can rest, and I will talk to you soon.